Hello and welcome to the Capital Conversation with me, Michael Hayman. All hail the King. I'm joined by retail royalty today, no less than the King of Shaves himself, Will King. Described by The Telegraph as one of London's best-known business leaders, his entrepreneurial journey took him from sailing student to shaving master. And now new ventures are in sight. All this has made him self-assigned accidental entrepreneur who built a household name brand, and you know what? He took on the titans of his very own industry. Will, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Michael.
Pleasure to have you on. Now, I'll start with your own words, if I may. Life, it's important. Enjoy it, don't endure it.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you do that?
I think it's really important. Look, I've had a most amazing life to date, but there's also been some pretty big issues in that, big macro stuff, which have made me basically live every day as positively as I can. Now, entrepreneurs, they're generally very optimistic types. They're more glass full than empty. But when I look at what I've been able to do since 1993, 25, nearly 26 years now, working for myself, not having to wear a tie, being able to help lots of people do lots of stuff.
If I may say, razor blades on it.
Thank you very much. It's really important to make the most out of your life and what you've been given and what you can do and help other people with, for sure, not just shaving.
Now, well, obviously, you are best known for creating the King of Shaves. I mean, you've done many other things, but tell us about that business. I mean, why shaving in the first place?
Goodness me. So we're going back 25 years. I can't believe it. I was 27. 53 now. I still feel young. I still feel 27, 31. But I worked in marketing, Michael. I enjoyed what I did. Worked in corporate events, product launches, amazing stuff. The 90s recession came along. We had 3 million people unemployed. We had interest rates in the double digits for your mortgage. And the company I worked for, basically I was made redundant because big companies weren't spending money.
Right. So you're redundant. You think about making a new idea.
So I went from a really nice salary with a really nice car and a really nice life and a really nice flat that I then suddenly couldn't afford. And I felt very let down and disappointed. And long story short, I thought, I'll back myself and I'll solve a problem. And that, to me, was shaving. I hated shaving.
So you hated shaving?
Yeah. I had really what I'd call pizza-y skin, bit blotchy and acne and rough and ready and raw.
Before the watershed, come on, guys. Put people off the tea.
And I'd studied mechanical engineering at University of Portsmouth, or then Portsmouth Poly, now University of Portsmouth, and basically blended a natural oil to take the harshness of the metal of the razor blade, got the King of Shaves, started off calling it Sunrise, which I think the sun would have set on it very quickly if I'd have gone down that track. My dad turned over the King of Spades playing card in a game of pontoon, so why aren't you calling it King of Shaves? Shave his beard off, give him a razor to hold well, and that was the genesis of the brand. That was the
literally
genesis.
A turn of a card.
It was.
Gives.
It was.
If it was like the Two of Hearts, I mean, it could have been a very different name.
Well, indeed, if I'd not had the surname King, I could have been a Smith of Shaves, a Hayman.
A Hayman of Shaves. Well, I mean, there you go. But I mean, it is. I mean, it is. But your name is above. Well, your name is on every bottle. Yeah. I mean. What gives you? I mean, did you feel like I have to have a specific confidence? Did you feel a special permission, or did you just think that's it, King of Shaves?
It wasn't. I mean, I'd had a lot of bottles printed Sunrise, and the ink I'd used actually was not waterproof, which wasn't very clever, really, was it? But I learned quite quickly.
Rub it off and
I chatted to my dad and mum and dad. Mum and dad are teachers, retired now, of course, and they're in their 80s, but live in Lowestoft in Suffolk, where I was born. And I chatted to my dad about calling it King of Shaves. Isn't that a bit arrogant? He said, "It's your name, son.
Yeah.
It's your name."
Did they? Because they were teachers, right?
Yeah.
So when you're suddenly saying, "Look, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to go and make it on my own," were they supportive? And was that important, that factor?
They were. So Mum didn't earn much money as a teacher, but nonetheless gave me £2,500 of savings there, which we turned into a massive amount of money when we were able to sell the shares for them between 2004 2008. Other people at the time, I mean, this is going back to 93, 94, this whole entrepreneurial gig, it wasn't really a real thing for most people in the workplace. You'd see Lord Sugar, you'd see Richard Branson. You'd recently had Gerald Ratner implode Ratner's with his remarks. And we rode this wave of early entrepreneurial career mindset and growth, which dovetailed with the internet.
I mean, it wasn't the zeitgeist.
And it went epic.
Yeah. I mean, I was reading here that you you were selling your shaving oil by hand with a megaphone on Speaker's Corner.
I did. I mean, it was great fun. I mean, we had so much fun. I mean, in the early days, Sophie Rhys-Jones was my PR.
Really?
Well, yeah, Will Carling was our first guy who endorsed us, and the internet came along, and it was a crazy, crazy time.
Was there a moment where you suddenly realised I'm onto a winner? I mean, what was the moment when you realised I've got a fun hobby as opposed to now I'm onto a journey which might deliver a really significant business?
I think, to answer you honestly, as soon as I started shaving with this King of Shaves oil, I didn't get razor burn. And my strategy was, and for people watching this, if it works for me, it might work for many more. Now, we're about 15, 16 billion people more in now, but obviously the mission then was to get it sold. So our first stockist was Harrods, so I thought, how could you not carry the King of Shaves?
Okay, so
then Boots, and we were able to scale it.
Right, so very quickly, I mean, your first stockist is Harrods.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not an everyday story, is it? I mean, what? And
I rang Mr. Al-Fayed up directly. I mean, these are the days 0207 629 1234. That is the Harrods switchboard number.
Sure,
asked
sure
for his office, and we got
I'm
through.
sure they'll be thrilled having it.
Well, and I got an order back the next day. A faxed order for 24 King of Shaves 25ml shaving oils. First year sales were £299, not much. First year losses £30,000. But we were able to then use Harrods to get into Boots and scale it.
And it's always been the case. I mean, certainly when I've spoken to people, like aficionados, people that really are into shaving. I mean, they love the oils, they love the gels. I mean, that's a kind of, you know, that's your kind of brand mystique. But I mean, we're now in this kind of much more sort of, you know, I guess beard-friendly world. I mean, you joked once that you were nervous to go into Shoreditch.
I was in Shoreditch yesterday, actually.
I mean, but are we falling out of love with the product that made you originally successful?
A huge amount has changed in the workplace, societally, economically. I mean, what you can do now to earn money versus what you had to do then to earn money. I've got a jacket on today, you've got a tie on. We used to have to go into work, sit behind desks, have phones with cords attached to that. You've had the economic meltdown in 2007-8. You've had the internet come along, and you've also had men being more comfortable in themselves and how they express themselves.
So I mean, obviously, you know, the formality of shaving is often something that people feel obliged to do. I mean,
used to be.
Is it? I mean, can it ever be fun? I mean, is it something that people do? I mean, or is the future this more kind of like beard-friendly world that we increasingly see?
I think on our packaging, we always had important enjoy, exclamation mark. So, of course, we want you to enjoy shaving if that's what you want to do. Of course, we now do beard products and all of the attendant skincare. We were the first mass men's brand into skincare in 1996. But men are now pretty ambivalent about shaving. You'd be stubbly, clean-shaven, full beard, hipster beard. Hair is huge because of the Instagram effect and when you're gramming yourself out on Love Island. But you are pretty either binary close shave like we are today, you have a beard or you have a stubble.
Right, okay. Now, you've obviously built a brand surrounded by some very, very big names. I mean, in terms of actually not being swallowed up and disappearing without trace, what's the trick to succeeding when you're dealing with things that might be the best a man can get?
It's been intriguing. I mean, we launched in '93. We bought Shave.com for £18 in '95. In the market then...
Hold on, so Shave.com, £18.95.
Yeah.
What's it worth today?
2 to 3 mil, maybe. Depends what somebody would pay for it. We've had interesting bits. Our competitive set in '95 was Gillette, was Wilkinson Sword, and it was us. And lack of awareness, which was the biggest competitor. Now, obviously, over the arc, 25 years, I can't believe it, I've got a 19-year-old son. Now, every man in his, you know, start-up brand has a beard oil, has a shave oil, has a skincare. But interestingly, in the market, the growth hasn't been as explosive as experts were going to say. It's a fraction of what women's skincare is, for example. But there are huge amounts of competitors now and huge amounts of getting products to you.
And is there a lesson when you're looking down, you're seeing these, you know, bright young competitors, you're looking up, you're seeing these bigger giants around you. When you're in that kind of middle marketplace, what's the key to success? How do you survive? Well,
it's a very interesting point. So obviously I try to see, and I'm very engaged with what's coming on the up and up from the startups and what's going on with the big guys. So Gillette, for example, its market share has declined from about 72% to 50% over the last 25 years, approximately. Still quite strong here. But we're obviously always mindful of what we've got to do to get young men, middle-aged men, women, anybody who shaves to buy into King of Shaves when we don't have and never have had the resources that our bigger competitors have had. Also, you'll see the rise of the subscription shaving models. Now, all of those businesses are violently loss-making. They lose so much money in the hope that they are going to be bought like Dollar Shave was bought by Unilever.
Right. We're going to have to leave it there, but we're going to come back. And when we do, we're going to be going right ahead in terms of a big discussion about where the King of Shaves has gone next, because he stepped away from his day-to-day job as CEO, but he's got a lot of new ventures up his sleeve. We'll be back to discuss that and London's startup scene in just a moment. Welcome back. My guest today is King of Shaves founder Will King. Now, Will, we spoke a little bit about the journey of setting up King of Shaves, but you describe yourself very much as the accidental entrepreneur.
Yeah.
A lot of people were sat there thinking, hold on, he's the consummate entrepreneur. What's accidental about it?
Well, look, I was really happy doing my job and I was made redundant.
So that's the first step.
So that wasn't so good. And then I did a number of other businesses while I was trying to get King of Shaves going. So did a surfing brand called Body Glove, which viewers may or may not have heard about, but it's a very famous Californian brand. The only issue is the retailers I was selling it to, surf shops, they didn't pay their bills. So that business didn't work out. I was doing King of Shaves alongside that. And then ever since, I've tried to get involved and immerse myself in projects, opportunities, things. Some have worked out, some haven't worked out. But net, you know, try to look into overcoming problems and issues and also help other people overcome their problems, issues.
So one of the things I always think about with you is that if I was to talk about character, I think staying power is a really important part of that. You know, you've been at this since you set up the business in 1993. What's the lessons? What keeps you going?
So, persistence. All right, you've got. Why not keep going? Often it's just as easy to stop as it is to keep going. Why not keep going? And most people actually don't keep going, and they just stop. Now, you've obviously got to have a great support team and network around you. I've got a great team at King of Shaves over the years, and the guys there today and what we do, a huge amount of support from friends and family. And then I take a huge amount of input from other people. And if I feel I can help them succeed in their businesses too, advisories I've been involved with, other directorships, using my learning of 25 years to help other people. I'm a relatively rare commodity in that I'm still a founder involved in my business over 25 years, where most people have.
But you have
exited.
transitioned. You've moved from CEO to chairman. You're still obviously a big
still
shareholder.
involved in it.
Still involved. But is there a sense though that you recognise you're changing over time as well? I mean, is there a sense that your place as an entrepreneur is evolving? I mean, you've got all these other interests. I mean, how do you see the Will in 2019 compared to the Will in 93?
I've done so much, but there's a lot still to do. So one of the projects that you're probably aware of is this King of Shades sunglasses business I'm going to start up and we'll launch this year. Change your letter.
I was just thinking that. You changed just one letter.
And that,
genius.
You know, that's my wife, Tiger. You know, we came up with her 7 or 8 years ago, and that will come to market this year. Other things that I've been involved with are entrepreneur in residence company, advising people, taking on non-executive directorships, being part of an advertising agency, working on behalf of clients, solving their problems. When you've done the same thing for a long time, you've learnt a lot, and as a brand founder, entrepreneurial CEO, I've learnt a lot. And there's also a great delight in sharing your learnings and your knowledge and experience with other people if they are interested in listening, and that probably comes from the parents being teachers. City
AM reported that the word you're least likely to use is impossible. I mean, you're a positive person, aren't you, in terms of the...
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, there have been times in my life which have been very, very challenging. So in 2003, for example, with King of Shaves, we signed a licensing deal with a well-known swimwear brand and promptly lost the thick end of £1 million and nearly blew the company up on its 10th year anniversary. Now, at the same time as that, we've had many other successes and then subsequent successes doing things. I'm never afraid to risk, but I probably do now balance a little bit more with the cost of that risk.
But you've warned against what you call wantrepreneurs. Explain to us what that is.
Well, being an entrepreneur if you look on social media today and you look at all of the opportunities to make money and have your own life, career, own this, do that, etc., etc., it looks kind of sexy and kind of easy. Now,
so the
lots of
entrepreneur
people
wants that.
want to be like that. Now, it's not a bad thing. That's great. Now, what you've got to realise is if you can do it and the barriers to entry are relatively low, everybody else on the planet can do it too. So what you do has got to be amazing for it to kick out and get noticed and succeed. And I see so many young startups, so many businesses that what I say burn, not earn. So they raise money, burn it, and then raise money and burn it in the hope that they will get profitable or bought. And of course, 99% of that does not work, but anybody can do it. So even today, I just see startups, even with shaving oil. It's a new big thing. It's going to revolutionise shaving. And I'm thinking, have you not looked into 25 years ago?
And at the end of that sort of experience, do you see a certain misery in terms of people that are, sort of taking the money and not earning it as it were?
I think being an entrepreneur today is probably one of the most stressful career options you can take. People wildly underestimate the path to success. It normally takes 5 years. It will take you through huge amounts of highs and lows. You probably won't succeed first time around. Remember, most entrepreneurs or most successful people do not succeed first time around, whether it's the J.K. Rowlings or the Richard Bransons or the Bill Gates.
So that's the learning zone.
Yeah, but if you keep going and then take the learnings from what you've been working on and perhaps repurpose it to be better, then you might get there the second, third or fourth time. But don't be pushing water uphill all your life.
In that kind of failure piece, I mean, do you get a sense that what are the lessons? What do you learn about yourself in that period where it doesn't go as I'd hoped?
I think you need to look inside yourself and see what you're made of. So when I did King of Shaves back in the day, I needed to fill 10,000 bottles and I didn't have the £2,000 I needed to pay a contract filler to fill it. So I spent 2 weeks filling 10,000 bottles. It's well documented on the kitchen, but I did it. I flipping did it. I filled over 2 weeks 10,000 bottles of the shaving oil and I kept going. And at the end of that 2 weeks, there was a huge satisfaction that I'd stuck to it and done it. And then luckily after that, Harrods took it, then Boots took it, and we managed to sell the 10,000. But lots of people think, oh, I'm really tired. Oh, I can't do it. I'll get distracted. I'll go on the internet. I'll see what other people are doing. That's a big potential distraction.
So keeping going.
Yeah, and keeping focused.
Do you still feel, I mean, you've often been associated with a very positive view about Britain as a place to grow a business. I mean, looking at 2019, is it still that sort of great place to grow the next King of Shaves, do you think?
Without a doubt. I mean, we live in an extraordinary country, irrespective of what's going on with Brexit. It's got so much, there's so much here to allow you to succeed, even if you don't think there is, to be honest with you. And when you look at other countries, whether it's China, whether it's India, whether it's subcontinent, wherever it happens to be, and you look at what we've got here, whether it's education, whether it's infrastructure, network, business opportunity, whatever that happens to be, of course it's amazing to be able to do it here. And really, we should be very lucky to be living here.
But you have warned about things like red tape, bureaucracy, so it used to be a piece of paper, it's now like a book. I mean, is that something that you think people are listening to? Is there any sense that it's getting better in terms of the hurdles to entrepreneurs?
So on the whole red tape thing, I often think that's kind of a red flag to a bullet. It's an easy thing to call out. To be honest with you,
you called it out.
Well, I have, but when we set up a company I set up with my wife Tiger a few years ago, it was all done online. It was all done digitally. It was all done. You now have accounts package online. You have VAT. You have tax. You have this. You have that. Lots and lots of things.
So that's how you overcome it.
But you need to have the knowledge. You need to then, understand how you find the solutions to the problems. And often people might go out to other people, say, can you do this for me? Get charged for it, all the red tape here, and that's not so necessarily so good. There's so much you can do these days as an individual, and that's me speaking at 53.
Right. Now, I mean, I started with a quote. We're at the back end of the interview, but here's another one for you. I came, I saw, I shaved, I died, isn't how I want to be remembered. How do you want to be remembered? I mean, obviously that's
goodness me.
I mean, the Julius Caesar. I came, I saw, I conquered.
You know what? A guy that was a good guy, a nice guy, a friendly guy, a guy who lived in what I call reciprocity. So, gave out and took in and gave out and took in. Didn't do bad stuff. Was a good role model for his son. Just, for being a nice guy. There's no massive, overarching, hyper legacy I want to lay down and leave. I mean, I want my son to play rugby and not get injured and maybe end up playing for England. Don't get injured, though, son. And
so has that view changed over time, do you think? I mean, you know, that sort of that sense of self, that sense of what does success mean for the successful entrepreneur?
You know what, Michael? 20 years ago, I bought a yacht, my son was born, and I built a villa in Grenada in the West Indies. I've had 20 years of the enjoyment of that through the success that the business was doing. But that was done then, 20 years ago. So as I look forward into my 60s, and hopefully longer, it's what else I can be involved with and do and add, and then having been enjoyed so much with my wife and, you know, with all the people around me.
Well, with that in mind, I mean, you call entrepreneurship the train that never stops going.
Yeah.
How do you decide when you want to get off at a station?
You know what? When people say you must work really hard, I'd say I don't really work that hard. I think really hard. And I take a lot of time to myself to think and to get on the right side of wrong and come up with overarching long-term strategy. Rather than thinking I'm working. And I think if you talk to any entrepreneur, especially in the early days, the first 5 years or so, those are the best days. If you speak to Duncan Bannatyne about the best day, the early days, always the best days. As you get older, you continue working, but you don't necessarily see it as work. I mean, working is going down a coal mine or going out fishing or doing something which you physically, and it's really hard. Entrepreneurialism, it should be a joy and a delight, and it's a passion that I've had for many, many years. The joy of entrepreneurship. We'll leave it there. Will King, thank you very much for joining me on the show, and that's all we have time for. Thanks to my guest, Will King, whose razor-sharp vision built a British brand from the kitchen table up. And if you're looking for another smooth story of business success, don't miss the next episode of The Capital Conversation. I'll see you then.